Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and welcome to this tutorial on how to do a winch launch in a glider aircraft. Now, as some of you might know, gliders were actually the first aircraft I flew, and the ASK-21 was my very first one, so I really love this aircraft and take this tutorial just like that with a little bit of love. Alright, so we are standing on the runway in Dienstlaken and we're just about ready to go. Now we have already hooked up to the winch and we are just about good to go. Now, a few things for us to check over here. We do have a checklist stuck down here in the cockpit, but this one is in German on this livery, so if you're flying one with an English livery, do follow it by all means. If you don't, then just a few things for you to check before we go. First of all, the canopy's got to be locked. We make sure that the spoilers do work and properly deploy and retract again. Make sure that our flight controls work. And make sure that we have dialed our altimeter to 0, as we are flying this on QFE, as we normally do in the world of gliders. Now, this airplane has instruments fitted in metric units, so we've got kilometers an hour on the speed and kilometers on the altimeter. This is the normal configuration of how we fly in Europe, with the exception of the UK, but they're always a bit special in aviation anyway, aren't they? Okay, so let's discuss the emergency cases before we're going to go over the normal launch. So the rope might always rupture, and that is your #1 emergency case that can happen to you on a winch launch. Now, depending on your altitude, you have different options available. You might, for one case, have a rupture below 50 meters altitude. If you're below 50, just land straight ahead. Don't try to do any maneuvers, it's not gonna work. Between 50 and 100, you basically get into a situation where you gotta decide based on the length of runway available ahead of you. You might just do an orbit and come back. As long as the speed brakes are not extended, above 50 meters, gliders should be able to do orbits without any problems. Now, above 100, normally you're able to fly a normal traffic pattern. However, again, depending on the situation, let's say you're at 120, you might want to still consider an orbit. If you're 150 or higher, you can definitely just do the standard shortened traffic pattern. Alright, so that's our emergency cases. Now for the standard case. In order to launch successfully, the aircraft is going to lift off at somewhere about 80 kilometers an hour. At first you want to do a shallow climb so that the aircraft is not going to go into an immediate stall in case of a rupture of the rope at low altitudes if you have pitched too high. Above 50 meters, we can then really pull the stick back and get into a proper climb in order to gain the most altitude. You want to keep the speed somewhere around 120 to 100 kilometers an hour over here, and that is normally going to work fairly well. As we're approaching the top of our launch, we will notice that the nose is being pulled further and further down. This is because the hook for the cable is located just here in the nose. As that happens, be sure that you don't let the speed drop below 90, rather 100. That's more on the safer side there. So don't let the speed drop below 100, but do let the nose slowly come down until eventually you get to a point where the nose is almost on the horizon. Then disconnect the cable and be sure to press that disconnect hook over here, or to pull it 3 times, just to make completely sure that any remains of the rope really detach from the hook over here. Well, after that, we're going to fly away from the immediate airport area. So in our case, we're going to do a right-hand turn here, since the traffic pattern for powered aircraft is in the south, the one for gliders is in the north. So we're going to make a right-hand turn out, and that's the complete launch. So in Microsoft Flight Simulator, in order to do the winch launch, when you are in the aircraft selection menu, you can select the launch method, and I've selected winch over there, and that loads us up with the winch already hooked up and the wingman standing by for our takeoff. In order to trigger the takeoff sequence, we are going to use the rudders and move them left and right a couple of times until we see our wingman indicate that we are good to go. So now things are going to go very fast. 80, lift off, shallow climb till about 50, and then we can really pull it up into the into the winch. So look at the pitch right now. It's really an awesome pitch. Don't let the speed drop below 100. And you will see that the higher we get, the nose slowly starts getting down and down and down. Until eventually we reach a point up here. Disconnect. Press it 3 times. Get yourself to a proper speed, 90 knots in this case. And off we go to the right hand side, leaving the immediate vicinity of the traffic pattern. Alright, and that is the winch launch over here. So typical launches get you to between 300 and 450 meters, depending on the length of the rope. There are some that really get you much higher, others don't. But in any case, this gives you a couple options to start searching for thermals, and this is where this tutorial is going to stop. So we have successfully launched from the winch. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this one, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe in the video description down below. And if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you for watching, and I see you all again on the next one.